Election Day is now just 5 days away. Both Vice President Harris and former President Trump are on a campaign blitz through battleground states, which are key to success for both of them. And they're presenting vastly different visions for the country. During his campaign stops yesterday, Trump focused heavily on the border, but also, as you see here, tried to capitalize on the gaffe where President Biden appeared to call Trump's supporters garbage. The former president there, in a vest, jumping into a garbage truck. Now, Biden has clarified his remarks, saying he was speaking about individuals, not all Trump supporters, but that didn't stop Trump from seizing the moment.
Crooked Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans.
Meantime, Harris remains focused on messaging and policy. She spoke about unity, abortion rights, and a middle-class tax cut during rallies yesterday.
I will give a middle-class tax cut to 100 million Americans. Enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries. Because ours is a fight for the future, and it is a fight for freedom. Freedom. Like the fundamental freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
CBS News campaign reporter Aaron Navarro joins us from Madison, Wisconsin. You're following the Harris campaign. We heard there Harris tried to stay on message, but she also responded to the president's garbage comment about Trump supporters specifically. Let's play what she said.
First of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear. I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
Talk to us about this challenging moment for Harris, where she's trying to win this final stretch of the race, but is dealing with issues, gaffes from current President Biden.
Errol, good to be with you. You saw Vice President Harris there in that clip acknowledging the sentiment of Biden's gaffe, saying that she doesn't support this kind of rhetoric when talking about other political supporters. And it's been something that Harris and their campaign have had to manage, especially as their campaign looks to maintain that Republicans, moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Madison and the suburbs of Milwaukee are part of their coalition. I'm looking to see if this will change things with those voters.
And what's interesting about that, Aaron, is that as she's trying to appeal to moderates and maybe Republicans who are defected from Trump, she's also trying to galvanize young people who tend to be more liberal, but not completely. I'm wondering if one effort to kind of secure one voting bloc might alienate the others. Any proof either way?
Interestingly, I was talking to students here in Madison at the University of Wisconsin to react to Biden's gaffe. And I heard a good amount of younger voters here agree with the sentiment of the gaffe, feeling a certain way about Trump supporters, while others did say it was not appropriate language. It does not make them change their vote. Here in Dane County is a pivotal county for Democratic turnout for Harris to win Wisconsin. You have about 50,000 college kids. While not all of them are Wisconsin voters, a lot of them have been targeted by the campaign through social media and other platforms to get out to vote. And a source familiar with the Harris campaign's internal data tells me that 1/3 of the new registrants in Wisconsin's election are from this county or Milwaukee County, showing that the effort to get more young people involved seems to be working.
And there was also polls showing Harris had a 23-point advantage over Trump among young voters. So those two bits of combined information do seem encouraging for the Harris campaign, but it's also revealing a moment in which she has to differentiate herself somewhat from current President Biden's policy. I'm just wondering, from your point of view, with this gaffe as an example, is she doing enough on that front, or how challenging is it for her to do it as the sitting vice president?
Well, this gaffe has allowed her to somewhat denounce the sentiments of what Biden was saying. But this is a tightrope that Harris has had to walk since she became the nominee. And listening to her speeches recently, she mentions a couple things. One, that she represents a new generation of leadership. That's mainly in reference to former President Trump. But the subtext there is that she's much younger than President Biden. And in interviews lately, she has said while she is proud of some of the work, the economic work that the Biden-Harris administration has done, she says there is still more left on the table, and that is what she is looking to address if elected to the White House.
All right, Aaron Navarro, thank you very much. And we will check in with our CBS News reporter following the Trump campaign in just a few moments. But first, we want to get to this. The Supreme Court will allow Virginia to remove about 1,600 people from the state's voter registration rolls less than a week before Election Day. This decision surrounds an executive order signed in August by the state's Republican governor, that's Glenn Youngkin. It directs election officials to cancel any suspected non-citizen voter registrations unless citizenship can be verified within 14 days. Justice Department said it disagreed with the High Court's order. Meantime, voters in Bucks County, Pennsylvania have until the end of day Friday to apply for, receive, vote, and return a mail-in ballot. The previous deadline, you see, was October 29th. This comes after campaigns for Donald Trump and GOP Senate candidate Dave McCormick filed a lawsuit requesting an extension. The suit claims voters were faced with incredibly long lines and that some were turned away. Democratic Pennsylvania Congressman Brendan Boyle says the suit goes against what Trump had advocated for in the past.
The reason why we have that 1 week before Election Day deadline is because the Republican-controlled state legislature in Pennsylvania mandated it. So the reality is there's no consistency with Donald Trump.
This comes as fresh new CBS News polling finds Pennsylvania Democratic Senator Bob Casey is narrowly leading in his re-election bid. He is ahead of Republican Dave McCormick by 6 points, as you see on your screen. Meantime, Vice President Harris remains deadlocked with Donald Trump there in the state. In just a few hours, Elon Musk could appear in a Philadelphia courtroom for a hearing over the legality of his PAC's sweepstakes. We've been talking to you about this for the past few weeks. The billionaire has been ordered to appear in person and has been offering battleground state voters a daily chance to win $1 million. That's if they sign his petition backing the First and Second Amendments. The hearing is set to begin at around 10 a.m. Eastern. Musk's PAC is trying to have the lawsuit moved to federal court. All right, now we want to bring in Olivia Rinaldi, our CBS News campaign reporter, on the phone with us from Palm Beach, Florida, following the Trump campaign. Olivia, I'm wondering if you can tell us more about Trump's effort to keep the focus on garbage and current President Biden's gaffe in referencing Trump supporters.
Yeah, well, good morning to you, Errol. The trash talk has really begun here on the campaign trail. You saw yesterday former President Donald Trump donning a bright orange safety vest, descending his plane, and then getting into a garbage truck to keep this narrative, the media coverage around Biden's gas going. Yesterday, you heard him in that garbage truck say that 250 million of his supporters are not garbage. That's a pretty large overestimate of how many supporters he has, given millions of 70 million votes in the last election, 8 million votes. So, Trump is really trying to focus on this, keep this front and center, keep this top of mind for his voters and his base and his supporters. Even when he went to Green Bay on stage, he continued to wear the green vest and talk about the comment from Biden. So all this to say that this is something the Trump campaign is using as a bit of their deplorables moment, and that's in reference to the 2016 comment that Hillary Clinton made in the final days of the campaign, calling Trump's supporters a basket of deplorables. They believe that they can have the same effect on this campaign, really ginning up supporters, people who had perhaps been on the fence, that would then turn their support towards former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, and Olivia, you wonder if this focus on garbage works for Trump. Remember, it was stemming from a comment comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made at Madison Square Garden when referring to Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. Puerto Rican artist Nicky Jam, who was on stage with Trump at a rally in Vegas last month, now says he no longer supports him, partly because of those comments. So does this topic actually signal electoral consequences for Trump?
You know, the full electoral consequences remain to be seen. We've been watching with that, talking with voters about how it's impacted them. Senior advisors on the campaign that I have spoken to have told me that anyone who was perhaps offended by this comment or, you know, maybe considering changing their vote after this comment weren't voters that they could have banked anyway. So that's what the campaign is saying regarding this, and saying that it's really having no impact on their supporters. They believe that they still have a very strong amount of support with the Latino community.
All right, Olivia Rinaldi, we appreciate you joining us on the phone from Florida. And be sure to stay with CBS News for all-day coverage on Election Day. We'll bring you live reports from our election headquarters here in New York and from our teams spread out across the country and, of course, in battleground states. Remember, special coverage begins at 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS News 24/7.